While on his deathbed, a former KGB spy told his wife, Putin did it. A British judge says the Russian president probably ordered Alexander Litvinenko's murder. Litvinenko died in London in 2006 after he drank a tea laced with a very serious poison. Litvinenko was an outspoken critic of Putin and his inner circle. The British government summoned the Russian ambassador and froze the assets of two suspects, trying to extradite them from Russia. So far, a spokesman for Putin said the judge's report is probably a joke. I spoke earlier with Will Pomeranz, the deputy director of the Kennan Institute for Advanced Russian Studies at the Woodrow Wilson Center and adjunct professor of Russian law at Georgetown.
I think this report went a little bit much farther, actually, than most people anticipated it would go. I think it was originally anticipated that the report would implicate the two Russians who met with Litvinenko and who gave him the poison. I don't think it was believed that it would also implicate President Vladimir Putin. But the report says that President Putin probably approved the poisoning of Litvinenko. So the report went much farther than I think most people anticipated, and will now have certain reverberations going forward.
The conclusion of the investigation is that there definitely was powerful motivation for Putin to want to take down Litvinenko, and in part because Litvinenko had been accusing Putin of pedophilia, had said that there was evidence that he had destroyed videotapes of him and young boys, and that the highest echelons of the Russian security services knew it and helped cover it up.
Well, Mr. Litvinenko made a lot of different accusations. To what extent he had evidence to back them up is still unclear. The issue is really to what extent did Litvinenko go against Putin and the Russian security services. And in that sense, there was clear reason for Putin to be upset. Litvinenko was a member of the FSB, of the Federal Security Services. He, in the eyes of his fellow FSB officers, he betrayed the institution. He moved to Great Britain. He began to work for MI6 as a consultant. That in and of itself was enough to, for the Russian security services to believe that Litvinenko had betrayed them, and led to the ultimate meeting, I think, but involving that cup of tea in a London hotel.
You know, Will, the thing is that if you follow these stories of Vladimir Putin at all, don't you just shrug and say, yeah, so what? We knew the guy was a thug.
Well, I think this has a little bit more than just a thug. This is actually implicating him in a murder in Great Britain, that he would have approved the transport of a dangerous poison to the United Kingdom, that this poison was found all in the hotel, in various other rooms that the men stayed in, and that he eventually approved a murder and an act of terrorism in a foreign country.
All right, so what happens next? I mean, legally speaking, are there consequences for the leader of the Russian nation?
I think what appears from Great Britain already is that they're trying to play down this report. They want to go after the two people who are accused in the report. They've once again requested the extradition of them to Great Britain. Russia won't allow that to happen, and it's highly unlikely that these two people who are directly involved in the poisoning will be brought to justice in the United Kingdom. So I don't see kind of immediate criminal charges being brought. And everything coming from Downing Street suggests that despite this conclusion from this report, Prime Minister Cameron wants to continue to have discussions and dialogue with Vladimir Putin. He wants to work with him to address issues of ISIS and what's going on in Syria.
And the allegations that Litvinenko brought up, these allegations of corruption in the spy agency, allegations of pedophilia by Putin, and again, saying that the videotapes had existed, but that Vladimir Putin used his position as the head of the security services to get those videotapes destroyed. Would there be any interest in the Russian government of vetting that out and trying to find out whether evidence of that exists?
I can guarantee you that there will be no independent investigation in Russia to Mr. Litvinenko's charges. That is not something that they're interested in. The Kremlin spokesman already announced that the investigation was biased. They have soundly rejected all the conclusions in the report, and there is no tradition on the security services turning on their own in this type of instance and investigating these charges. Mr. Litvinenko made a lot of other, in many ways, more damaging charges. For example, that Vladimir Putin had been involved in the famous 1999 apartment bombings in Moscow. There will not be an investigation into that either. I do not anticipate, unless something dramatic were to happen in Russia, I do not anticipate that there will be some sort of independent inquiry in Russia regarding these accusations.
Will Pomeranz, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.